My daughter is in wrestling, and after she won her first medal in wrestling, she asked me to build her a rack for her medals. So that's what this project is. I'm building a medals rack. Um, so I've always kind of thought hickory was a pretty wood, so I decided for for her medals rack, I would build her um, a rack made out of hickory. So I went down to the local hardwood supplier, picked up that piece of hickory, and so now um, first thing I'm going to do is one side has already been planed, so I'm going to plane down the other side here. Maybe from the video you could see how cupped that board was. So this actually took several more passes than what I'm showing here, and then so once I got that cut, there's planer snipe on the either side of the board. So I'm going to take it over to my table saw and cut that off, which is what you see me doing here. Once that's off, then I can. I don't think I cut it to length here, but close. You know, probably within an inch or two of how long I actually wanted the metals rack to be. So kind of rough length here, but I knew it wasn't square. It wasn't going to be square because I haven't jointed either of the edges here. And so what I'm doing here is just checking to see which of the two edges is straighter, so I can. Was going to run over the joiner, but it was pretty close, so I decided just to use my table saw kind of as a joiner here. So that flatter edge, I'll run that up against my table saw fence, and then clean up the opposite side, and then I can start cutting those pieces to width. So yeah, figuring out how wide I need that cut to be, and then again right here I'm just straightening out one edge, so I have one nice flat straight edge of this project piece. Then kind of just figuring out. I know I don't want the top and the back to be the same width, but just kind of looking at the grain here and deciding what I thought would look nice, and then I have that's what this is. One piece is for the back of this, and one's for the top. And at the top, I thought maybe it'd be nice to because not all wrestling medals are ribbons with medals. Some of them are trophies, so it'd be nice to have a place for her to put her trophies too. And then once I got those pieces cut to width, then I'm gonna straighten the other side. So now I'll both those boards should have straight sides on either side now. And then what I want to do is cut a groove down the length of one and have the other piece fit inside it. And so I'm putting in my dado blade set here. Now, if you've used a dado blade set before, you can probably tell that I just installed the chippers and blades backwards. And so got everything in set up, and then I got like a zero clearance insert that I made. And then this is about the time that I'm realizing that I have the blades in backwards. So I didn't record it, but I switched pull the blades back off and switched them the right way. And now once I have that done, this fence I added on so I could add these feather boards because it's hard to attach them to my regular T-style fence. So that's why I have that add on to that, and so I can run this piece between the feather boards because what happens with the dado set is it tends to lift the board up as I'm cutting it. So I like to have a feather board set up for this kind of a thing. So there you can see I cut the groove into that one, and then I'm going to cut this one to fit snugly inside that groove. Again, I got the feather board set up. Same reason here. just to keep it from lifting up as it goes over the blade. And then now I'm just test fitting that. And I was kind of proud of myself. This was the first try, and it was a pretty satisfying fit. I usually try to make these too tight and then kind of sneak up on it, and sometimes this is what happens. It actually ends up being the right fit. So yeah, I was pretty pleased with that. So once I get the boards milled and cut and the joinery is set up, now I'm just doing the layout for. I use drawer pulls is what I used for to actually hang the metals on in this, but so I'm doing the layout for the drawer pulls, and I could have done this probably with pen and paper, but this is usually how I do it. As I'll once I figure out how many pulls or whatever I'm adding to a project, I'll take the length and divide it by that number, and then do my layout that way. It's just the less thinking, the less mistakes I'm going to make personally. So, and then here on my drill press, I have that OSB backer board with it. It's not so easy to tell from this shop. There's a fence there that project's butted up against, and that's going to keep those all those holes the same depth. So this is the through hole, and this is the size of the fastener that's going to hold on those drawer pulls for the hangers. And once I get in their offset, I'm not going to show you doing all the holes here, but do the through holes, and then I come back here with a Forstner bit. That way I can countersink that fastener so it'll sit flush up against the wall in my daughter's room. So, and then a bunch more of these. So you can see all the holes there for their offset for the hangers, and then countersinks on the back. Now what I need to do is the hangers that I that I bought for these, I got to do the layout for that. And there was a mirror hanging up in my daughter's room before, and so I wanted to match these up with the existing fasteners, so I don't like poking more holes in the walls than I need to, and they seem far enough apart. This is going to work for this metals rack. So that's how I got the dimensions for those. Once I got that, squared them up, and then I'm just using my trim router to cut out the recess for those hangers. And then there's obviously a hanger for either side of this rack. And just a little at a time, just kind of sneak up on it because I'd like to have a nice fit on this, and then now get the other side done. I don't know what the tool is called that you'll see me using next, but what it is it's got a spring-loaded centering device with a drill bit that runs in the middle, and so I can put that in my drill and put the piece I want the drill centered in, and it'll allow me to have my pilot holes centered in the holes. So I don't know what that thing's called, but those are pretty handy. Found that one at just a tool store I was at in Oregon. And then sanding, more sanding. I cut out a lot of the sanding out, just not to bore with. Like, it's obvious that, at least I hope it's obvious that I got it sped up here, but there's a lot more sanding than what I'm showing in the video. And so, yeah, but that's, if you want it to look nice, that's part of the process. And for me, I could have done this after it was all glued up and before I was ready to completely finish it, but um, I thought it would be easier before I did the glue up. And then I also had some scrapers here, and I just got those, and this is the first time I had used them, so I thought it would be a good project to try them out on. And actually, they remove material a lot faster than I imagined they would, so I was probably using those a lot more in the future. I was down at Woodcraft, and they were having a special on those, which is why I picked them up. So I'm glad I did. And then the glue up. Pretty simple, this one. Not all glue ups are this simple, but this one happened to be, so I like it when they go quick and smooth. And I didn't show it, but one of the things I did here was after this glue up, I trimmed the edges so they were nice and straight and true, because the glue up wasn't perfect lined up, but that's a pretty easy thing to fix after the fact. And then just throwing a bunch of clamps on. And then so here I'm just rounding all the edges over. I think it's an 1/8 inch round over I have in my trim router there, just to make it easier to handle. I also think the rounded over edge makes it look just a little bit nicer. Um, so got that done. Little more just finishing up, going back over it, make sure that we're ready for finish, which I believe is going to be the next step here. And then wipe on poly is what I'm using here. This is a satin finish wipe on poly. Um, and I know, I understand that wipe on poly is designed to be wiped on, and so sometimes I do that. I do wipe on, but it seems like I end up getting a little bit better product. I can lay on the finish just a little bit thicker with a brush. I get these packages of chip brushes from Harbor Freight, which um, inexpensive, and they're easy to use. And sometimes you'll get some of the fibers will end up in your finish. You gotta kind of look it over and pick it out because they're cheap brushes. But that's what I do. And then I don't know if this is the next day or several hours later, but going back to do the finish on the other side. And this process is a finish that I like quite a bit. I use it for pieces that people are going to handle a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll put on a layer of wipe on poly, and then I'll sand it down smooth with a 400 grit, and then I'll do another layer of wipe on poly, and then I'll come back and finish it with furniture wax, Johnson's furniture wax, I think is what it is. So I'm just going over it with 400 grit. Anyway, put the wax on and kind of buff it out, and it makes a pleasant finish to handle, I think, which is why I do it this way. So I sanded it, and what I'm doing here is this is actually a vinyl, my last name, which is also my daughter's last name. Anyway, my wife has one of those Cricut vinyl cutters, and I asked her to print off, I think it's pearl, the color is pearl or cream or something like that, to put her name on it. And so that's what that is. Put the vinyl on, and then after that, I'll come back with the wipe on poly, and then the paste wax after that. So yeah, I think think that turned out nice looking. So this is just me applying the furniture wax, and I apply it with I think it's 4/0 steel wool that I use for that. I'd have to look, but I think that's what it is, 4/0 steel wool. Um, and then once it's dried, then I come back with a cloth and buff it out. And then here you see me starting to put on the drawer pulls. There's a bunch of them, so I didn't add all that to the video, but more of the same. Just putting those drawer pulls all the way down, and then here it is, final project. Was very pleased with the way it turned out, and so was my daughter. So once that's done, then put it in her room, and she's already got some of her medals hanging. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.